Hey, 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 and goodness to you. It's Sporty King on Wednesday. And actually, I always like to say goodness because I don't know whether you're watching morning, afternoon, or evening. But I just love putting good in front because it makes a difference in your life and in your thinking. So, anyway, welcome to Glue Wednesday. I always come on the 5 minutes earlier. The show starts at 1, the broadcast starts at 1, but I always come on 5 minutes early and uh, give the Facebook a chance to do what they call build the audience. It's personal choice if you're giving a broadcast, a live broadcast, because let's say the way I look at it is, let's say someone has put in a reminder that they want to know at 1 o'clock when I come on, and then they get the thing at 1 o'clock and they say, "Oh my God, that's right, it's 1 o'clock. Sporty's going to be on." I say, how about letting you get that 5 minutes in advance or whatever, so you can make sure you close out everything and settle in. So we've got less than 4 minutes for today's message, but then that's why I come on early. And then I've got a tape delay. I'm using a technology called StreamYard, and it's broadcasting to Facebook. So if you put a comment in the thread, and please, I see I got 3 people there, so please feel free to say hello and let me give you a shout out. But if you put a comment in there, it's not going to come instantly. And so there's going to be a delay before I see it and get a chance to make a comment on that if necessary as well, because we always want to be sharing as we go through this situation as well. See, Wednesday is my day for sharing, my sharing broadcast. Monday, I do the Monday Morning Moment, which is a short inspirational message. There we go. What's going on, Kevin? Good to hear you and see you, and good to be heard and seen rather than talked about and viewed. Right? So, have a good time with our sayings, y'all, with the English vocabulary, and recognize that there's so many things that we do and say that makes a difference in other people's lives. And so that's why I say I don't want to be viewed. Where are you getting viewed? Getting viewed at the funeral, but you could keep being viewed on the basketball court. See, don't let it just mean one thing. That's the joy. That is the joy of the English language. So thank you, Kevin. Good to hear and see you. We got less than 3 minutes for today's message. And if you're watching the broadcast, you can still put a shout out on. I have nothing against that. That's the beauty of it all. It's making sure that we get the shout outs in for everybody. Okay, and get everybody included as much as possible. I love doing that. So thank you, Kevin. It's good to see you. And we just got less than 3 minutes to go. I'm also working on right now, because you're coming in early. I'm working on the back screen. I forgot. I did. You know what? Come on. I forgot. I forgot to set up my back screen, and which will have my logo in it. So it's, those are the types of things that you wanted to be doing as you're preparing to broadcast, because I think that it's, especially these days with everything's virtual, we're always actually preparing to broadcast. Even if you're not going to be the speaker, you're going to be involved. So there's still some preparation for you. We've got less than 2 minutes for today's message. So there's still some preparation for you as well. Get used to different technology, find out different things and how you might do this and that, so that you can be ready when it's time for you to when the show must go on, when it's time for you to take the stage or take the screen. Isn't that the beauty of it all? But anyway, we got less than 2 minutes and we're still on a roll. So it's good. Hey, I see some other people came on. We're starting at 1 o'clock. So we're starting in less than 2 minutes. Go on and throw a shout out in the thread so I can click you on and let people see that you're here and smiling. So it's good to see you, right? So go on and do that so I can give you that shout out. It's always about sharing. It's always about sharing. Okay. And then you got to watch out again, like I said, when you think about our English language, sharing can also be SHEERING, where people are cutting stuff away from you. They're sharing you. So be conscious of that. Don't let people just slip a word on you and not explain themselves. What's going on, Roger Carroll, Glue family? Yes, welcome to the family. We got less than a minute. And speaking of family, coming all the way from the Ivory Coast. Yeah, there goes my nephew, my prince, John Luke Irie. Yo, he always calls me my king and I call him my prince. And yeah, he's coming to us from Ivory Coast. So yeah, Roger Carroll is one of my sisters in the regulars. It's good to see here. Kevin has been joining us more regularly. It's good to see you. But again, this is actually John Luke. I don't think you've been on before. I think you a lot of times you'll click on the post, but you haven't really joined us in on the broadcast. So let's go. Anyway, let's get going, okay? Because it's 1 o'clock and bam, at 1 o'clock it's time for Glue Wednesday. And I created Glue Wednesday back in 2017 because so often we hear people say that Wednesday is hump day. Because back in way before 2017, when old school ruled, we used to say, oh, okay, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you've been to the Ivory Coast and you loved it. Thank you. Hey, and okay, how we adding up now? Vic coming in. Vic has been late a couple of times. I slap his wrist, but that's my boy. Good to see you here. But Glue Wednesday was started because years ago when old school really ruled, all we used to say was Wednesday was hump day because we only acknowledged that you work Monday to Friday and then the weekends. We didn't have the term flex time. We didn't use it. See, and that's again one of the things you have to look about progress is how language and the terminology changed. So hump day was well, as the middle of the week you got over and the weekend is coming. Well, I say that Wednesday is actually the middle of a traditional 7-day week. So it doesn't matter where you work. So it keeps the weekend, and the week beginning together. Thus, I call it the glue. And that's what it's about. GLUE. God's love undoes everything. God's love undoes everything. It's not about humping and getting over. It's about keeping it together. And God's love is what will keep it together. Not that it will tear stuff apart, but whatever has been torn apart will get put back together with God's love. Because I'm always going to talk about the spiritual side. And though not today's topic, everything counts. Don't squash your religion to respect someone else's. And it's hard in our days with everybody being politically correct and you can't say this and you can't say that, but do not. I think there's nothing wrong with showing your spirituality. You don't have to use all the terminology that you use in your religion, but you should not decide, hey, because I'm of this faith, I'm not going to say that because then that would insult these people of that faith. When I was in Chicago, I had a program at the Chicago Department on Aging. And I talked about my Christianity, excuse me, and I had 2 participants in my class that were Hindu. Now, it was incumbent upon them, excuse me, to understand that when I said God, then they replaced that with their deity. But I didn't just decide, hey, that's the way it is. One month, because it was once a month, I researched Hinduism, and I made that the topic of my discussion. And so now everybody else had to reverse roles. And as I said, their deity's name, they had the rest of the people who Christianity had to replace that with God. So everybody's got a God, okay? Everybody has a belief. And that's what you have to do. Respect one another's beliefs, but that doesn't mean that you have to squash yours. Because even in Christianity, it says, why would I give you a light to shine and then you hide it behind the bush? If God has blessed you, you have to share that blessing and what is called in our faith, the good news. And that still rolls us into my topic today, because the topic today is failing to fail. You have to fail to fail. You see, even there's a saying, the saying about failing is that you have to see yourself as a failure. See, that's the thing with failure. You have to see yourself as a failure because it's mental. Failing is where you decide that you don't have another opportunity. There are no more options. There are no more chances for you to succeed. And so it's something that you have to see, guess what? Based on what someone else has seen or what they have decided to tell you and share, which is that could be the SHEERING, sharing, cutting you down so that they can be successful. So it's important that you don't see yourself as a failure. I have never seen myself as a failure. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But here's the way I look at fail. And you know what? Let me give thanks, shout out to a good friend of mine, Kim Alver, who I work with in the Yellow Ribbon program, and one of my other friends over there, Ed Dunkelblau, and maybe someone else has done this, but there was a meme that had said fail, and it had different meanings as a broken down acronym for fail, and they both had sent me it on two different occasions, saying when I saw this, I thought about you, Sporty, and I laughed. But definitely check it out on. I think I posted it here, but I definitely had it on LinkedIn where Kim did it as a tribute to teachers, how they have to look at fail. But I laugh because I already have my own affirmation. That's I call my acronyms affirmations, because they're acronyms that are affirmations. I don't just put a word to go with the letter. I put a word to go with the letter and define the word. And so I have my own. So I wanted to say shout out to them and thanks, because that's one of the things that we have to look at when people think of us. That's a sign that we're not failing. See, there's signs all around, but you got to find them. People think of you. That's a sign that you're not failing. But here's what I have for fail: FAIL, and that's faith activated in loss. Failing is faith activated in loss, which means that it also is FAIL, that you have to follow and inhale the Lord. Faith activated in loss so that you can follow and inhale the loss. Because once you've recognized what the failure is and who your real leader is, you realize, wait a minute, I didn't fail. I was following the Lord's will. And that has to be the key, because you have to be what you actually are. And that is, you are a walking, living testimony of strength and resiliency. Repeat that. You are actually a walking, living testimony of strength and resiliency. Now, I'm going to show you why. I'm going to name some, but while I do, please type in the thread, okay? Type, here you go, interaction time. Type in the thread some things that you've given yourself credit for failing at, when in fact, they were things that you were just experiencing. I'm going to give you some samples, and you can wait till I say them if you want to. But some of the things that you've given yourself credit, because you have to give yourself credit for failing, when actually they were things that you were experiencing. Here are some. For riding a bike. You might have failed at that the first time. Riding a bike. Failing at romantic relationships. Failing at job relationships. You may have decided you failed, but you know that you didn't. Failing a test in school. You've given yourself, you've decided you failed because you didn't make the team at school. Okay, you giving yourself, called yourself a failure because the first time you tried something, it didn't work. First time you were a parent, you think you failed because of how you're parenting when you got the second child and compared it. Or maybe you didn't get the second child, you just decided that the way your child was growing up, you were failing. First time you decided to try public speaking, you may think that you failed. First time that you decided that you learned to read. Ooh, now we're getting way back. But did we think we were failure when we were that young and reading? Sometimes we hear it in our older days because we read so much in silence. When it's time for us to read a speech, we actually fumble and can sound illiterate because we're not used to reading aloud. Every now and then, read aloud. My sister Roger Carroll tells me that reading is one of her things that she does. And I say to you also, every now and then, read aloud. Because think about it, how do we teach kids? Read aloud, read aloud. But see, because we don't read what's on the page, and especially as we grow up. We don't read the words, we read the picture and we paint it. So read aloud every now and then. And then climbing. Climbing is a thing that we fail, that we decide that we have failed because of the way maybe we didn't make it to the top. So these are things that I say, these are things where we've given ourselves credit for failing. So let me see what you've got in the thread. And meanwhile, I'm going to click on what Jean, because it's at the French accent. It's really happy to know that you know my country. Oh, and so he likes saying that so much that he typed it twice. See, you can hit that bar twice sometimes and think it didn't go through, but it did. Okay, but here we go, Kevin. Oh man, y'all know you know how they say you can't make this stuff up. Uh, Kevin and I, we do not play mind readers on TV, and we didn't stay at Holiday Inn Express last night. But that's going to come up. See, that's what I'm saying. When you're connected, that makes a difference. So learning to swim, you failed at first, but you learned how to float. And that's funny because there's some people who can swim and they aren't good at floating. So yeah, see, that's something that we may give ourselves credit for failing when in fact, it was just something that we were experiencing. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Anybody else got something that they gave themselves credit for failing when actually they just were experiencing it? And because I say that there's a time delay, I'm going to hold my breath for a moment and see if someone writes something in there. And if you're watching the broadcast, please still put your stuff in there. It doesn't have to be in sync with as we're talking about it, but we need to see what other people are saying and thinking sometimes to help us with what we say and think. Somebody else thought that they weren't good at swimming but they were good at floating. And they say, oh, wait a minute, it's not just me, it's Kevin Thompson did that also, had that experience, and it makes you feel good. But even I got something coming up about that. So be careful about that thought. But okay, let me give it a couple of more seconds to see if Roger, Carol, Vic, or Jean has anything that they gave themselves credit for failing when in fact they were only experiencing. Because let me put one more, as a reminder, one of the things that we tend to fail is being someone else. Because you should fail when you do that, okay? That's why I want to say to us, when we think about all these things that I've listed and what you may list or be thinking, last week I introduced one of my memes, my affirmations called SILLY, SILLY, self-imposed limitations lie to you. Take a moment, sit down, think about some of the things you told yourself you couldn't or wouldn't dare do. Then laugh at the silly reasons that you use to keep yourself back. So that's what's, silly is self-imposed limitations lie to you. When we say that we failed, we usually come up with a silly reason for why we failed. Well, I can't swim because, I can't keep my fingers together to pull the water. I'm scared to get in the water. I know that people drown. We come up with these silly reasons to not try something. And in the process, we get a self-fulfilling prophecy of not trying it and therefore failing at it or not being good at it, as Kevin said. But if you've recovered from any of those other things that I've mentioned, because guess what? You did probably end up learning how to ride a bike. You did pass tests. You had some good relationships. You had some bad. But if you've recovered from any of those, you've established, and you've heard me call this before, a track record of resilience. Okay, let's see what I'm going to take that commercial and see what Vic said. I failed to go skydiving. Not ski diving, skydiving, and I never went. See, and boom, I love it, Vic. See, that's the English language. He didn't actually was not able to do it. It's like, I failed to go there. I didn't go. Failed. All right, thanks, Vic. Oh my God. And then think about it, as they say, English is one of the hardest languages to learn. Think about if someone didn't know English and they saw this, I failed to go ski diving. Say, oh wow, they got ski diving? Sky, S-K-Y, let's go. But this is also what I was saying about reading aloud. That, this is not a slap on the wrist at all to Vic. This is what we have to remember to do as we mature in our lives, is that double check some of the basics. Okay, because the thing is, we have to. I hear you go. I know you can spell it, Vic, but I'm saying this because we're living in a virtual world, and so spell check is important before you hit that send button. I mean, we're rushing right now, but if that were something that Vic needed to, or anyone needed to really get a point across, you need to make sure that you catch that type of stuff, because otherwise, to a stranger, it comes out with the appearance of you being illiterate, which could infect your reputation. See, everything, y'all, Everything is important in how we keep this whole thing together. Remember, we're not talking about getting over, humping. We're talking about keeping it together. Glue. So thank you, Vic. All right, but let's move on, okay? Because that's the thing is that if you've recovered from any of those things, you've established a track record of resiliency. And one of the things that you have to do to feed that track record is you have to give it bites of personal success. See, that's what you do to feed your track record. You give it bites of personal success, because it's the last thing that I mentioned is the enemy that we have to defeat. You will only be successful when you choose to be yourself. You will fail every time that you try to be someone else. You will only be successful when you choose to be yourself. Why? Because when you choose to be yourself, your definition will contain the bits and pieces that no one else can see. And so that's why you will know why you have that personal success that no one else can see. That's the floating that Kevin saw. Well, I can't swim, but hey, I can float, and no one else knows why. But I'm coming back to that again, Kevin. I love that you put that. Like I said, I love it when we connect. So let me tell you this. For instance, I'm about to have knee surgery, and therapy will say that I can take one more step when I don't feel that I can. Because therapy is based on what has been done in the past by someone else. And I know it's encouragement and psychological support. But guess what? I have to know sporty, and I have to trust in God. I have to activate my faith, follow, and inhale his pace. This knee that I'm getting ready, I'm trading it in. This knee that I'm about to trade in was damaged in 1973. And I didn't take the proper steps for it to rehabilitate. So the key is that I have to have learned from that lesson. And so I take you even further back than 1973. I take you back to 1963 when I was in Boy Scout camp and attending summer camp. I was in the Boy Scouts and attending summer camp for the first time. There were less than 20 of us, and we camped near a lake. Get ready, Kevin. There was a raft about a swimmer's distance away from the shore, and you had to pass the swimmer's test to be able to go out on the raft and enjoy other things like canoeing, that were part of the whole experience, all right? And to pass the test, you had to swim 1.5 lengths of the boardwalk, and then on the last half, you had to turn over and do the backstroke to the end. That's how you pass the swimmer's test so that you can go out to the raft. Now, I actually could swim, but I didn't make it, while only 2 of the boys did. So those 2 plus the scoutmaster were the only 3 allowed out on the raft, but they couldn't enjoy canoe fighting because you needed to have 2 people in each canoe. And a canoe fight is where you're canoeing, and the challenge is to grab the other person and turn their canoe over. Okay, but so they couldn't, or even just going out canoeing, they couldn't do because they didn't have 4. They didn't have an even number. They were just the 3 of them. All right. So each day for I don't know how many days in a row, everyone was pressuring me to pass the test, including the boys who couldn't swim. And I tried and I failed 2 more times, but they persisted. So I got angry, shut everybody out, and I refused to be involved in any of the activities, etc. And finally, they left me alone. After a couple of days of disconnecting, I went to the scoutmaster and told him that I wanted to take the test. I was on my last last 3/4. I had made the turn, and I was 3/4 the way back when everybody noticed that I was taking the test. They stopped what they were doing, ran over to the boardwalk and made the walk with me as I turned over on my back to do the backstroke and encouraged me, go Sporty, go Sporty. And then they congratulated me at the end. I have to know Sporty. I have to trust in God. Therapy will say that I can take one more step when I know that I can't. Because therapy is based on what was done in the past by someone else. And I know it's encouragement and psychological support. But you see, I replenish and restore by being alone. That's what I had to do. That's what I learned in 1963. See, take yourself back and learn about yourself. Why did you do what you did? How does that connect to who you are and where you are now? I replenish and restore by being alone. How do you replenish and restore? Remember, you will only be successful when you choose to be yourself. So you have to know you have to trust God. How do you replenish and restore? Trust that your formula will work again. Whatever it was, trust that your formula will work again. And it's going to look different and take what seems like more time. It's going to seem like it's taking more time because you know what? That's only if you choose to compare apples to oranges in your quest to get cherries. See, you can't look back at what you did and what you overcame and say, okay, well, this is going to take this amount of time because when this happened to me, no, that's not how it goes. It's a different challenge. The variables are different. So maybe last time you got over it. Then let's go back to the failed relationship. You got over it in a week or a month. So, hey, I can over failed relationships. Well, maybe this time the relationship was one that's going to take you 3 or 6 months to get over, a year. You've got people who, you talk to say, man, aren't you over that relationship yet? You don't know how deep it was. Remember, only you know the bits and pieces that you have to feed your track record with for your personal success. Don't compare apples to oranges and think that you're going to get cherries. So just trust that what you did, your formula, is still going to work, but it's going to look different because you are different. You will only be successful when you choose to be yourself, when you refuse to see yourself as a failure. In a post that I did today, I had a meme that says, oh, I don't have the meme up there. Okay. Or do I? Maybe I got it as the next slide. Nope, I forgot to put the meme up there. But I did a post. It said, what did my meme say today? It said, okay, wait a minute. Let me go look and see what it said. I'll be right back. Technology allows you to do this stuff. All right. The meme said, God had me try some new things so that he could help me see what I was doing. God had me try some new things so that he could help me see what I was doing. Right? And what I wrote next to it is, I wrote, have you wondered why you took certain chances and experienced what many call failure? Have you wondered why you took certain chances and experienced what many call success? Do you now see who God has called you to be? With his call, he has given you the glue to keep it together. His love. LOVE. Let ourselves value everyone. And so remember, we don't have to hump as much as we need to keep it together for us to go forward. And if you like another tool to help you keep it together, head on over to my site and take a look at my passing thoughts. Pick up your set of passing thoughts so that you can share them. And what they'll do is they'll make a difference in the way you think while keeping you positive and thinking. And that becomes the key. All right. So I want you to make sure that you stay safe and do what you have to do to be a success. Roger Carroll, what you gonna say? Thank you. Cleaning up my house is cherries, and I'm using Apple Experience to motivate me. Ooh, I like that. See, you gotta just love the language. Right. Cleaning out my house is cherries, and I'm using Apple Experiences to motivate me. See, these are the again, and these are the types of things that when we take words and we get creative, it helps us make the next step. See, that's Roger Carroll being who she is to be successful, not who I am. I have given her that fuel, and therefore she's taken it and used it the best way she can. Kevin, like I said, he threw the thing in there about swimming and floating, and I said, "Ha! Look at that." I knew that I was going to have an analogy that talked about how the difference between me having to take the swimming test. There's so many ways that we connect with one another when we take the time to connect with one another. And that's why even with Vic saying peace and blessings to you all, yeah, that's how we can close things out. But we can also remember to keep things together is the best way to close them out, so that you can leave whole. As you hear them say in church, I don't want you to leave the way you came, the way you came in. Leave as a different person. And you do. Even if you don't like a performance, church or anything, even if you don't like the performance, you don't leave the same way you came. Because if you went expecting to get such and such. And if you didn't get it, you may leave saying, I didn't get it. I don't think I'm going back. Or whatever you might decide to say. Or you may say, wow, I went and I got what I came for. And guess what? You could also say, I went, I didn't get what I came for, but look what else I got. Sometimes that becomes the key. Look to see what else you got. Don't clean your house with cherry as a cherry experience. Don't clean your house of cherries by using apple repellent. You got me playing with that one now because I like that one. Where's that one? Here it goes. Oh man, I like that one. Yeah. Don't compare apples to oranges in your quest to get cherries. Look, y'all, thanks a lot for staying around with me and dealing with glue and recognizing that we all have to find just different ways to keep it together, and we will. Okay, so my operation is next Wednesday, September 8th. So I'll see what I can do in terms of either putting up in fact, I will definitely be putting up a recorded broadcast, whether or not I'll use one that was recorded from the past, or maybe I'll record and put one up because I'm going to be on the operator. And goodness, by the time you get my broadcast, by the way, I will be in the recovery room. And it's interesting that, thank you, Vic, for good luck, but also this is what I really appreciate, the blessings, the peace and the blessings, because I always say that we have to see how blessed we are. You've seen on my Gift Friday where I had a poem called Sometimes I Wish I Were Lucky instead of just so good, right? You have to see how blessed you are. And that's going to be making a huge difference. Hey, go my sister down the hall, cousin Ronnie calls me pastor. Just like I told you, Jean Irie calls me my king. I call him my prince. Ronnie calls me pastor. I call her mother of the church. Praying for successful surgery, recovery, and walking. And that's all about pace, Roger Carroll. Thank you. One of the things that you'll always see me put on your page when you need prayer, I'll say I pray for a smooth recovery where speed cannot heal. Again, just as we like I say at the beginning where they say, well, you have to see yourself as a failure. The cliches that we use make a difference. People say wishing you a speedy recovery. We don't even think about that. Speed is not the goal in recovery. Fullness is the goal in recovery, because sometimes a speedy recovery will mean that you are not healed and you can damage yourself even more. Just again, I'm not beating up what anybody says. I'm just remembering, let's take it all in and let's reuse it. And so when you pray for successful surgery, a recovery, and walking, and okay, I'll make sure I ain't got my glass, because walking could look like the L is gone. It could be waking. Yeah, because every day you should wake up and be replenished and have a new faith in God. And what did Kevin say? Healing prayers and blessings to you in your surgery. Yes, thank you so much. And pray for them doctors too. Because they got a gift that they're sharing, and I love it. All right. And see, this is where the tape delay comes in. I don't know what Ronnie is laughing about, but laughter is so important. That's a part of the recovery. Anything that you're dealing with, you have to have some laughter in your spirit. I'm a member of an organization called AATH, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. We believe in the healing power of laughter, and it's important that you recognize that there's research on it. And, laughter is not just a fly-by-night thing. It makes a difference. And you don't always have to be cracking up laughing, but you have to have humor in your heart and a good laughing spirit, okay? Praying for your progress. Thank you, Ronnie. See, it's the way we say these things. And look at you, Vic. I love you, man. How about them Cowboys and Butch? Because you saw I posted, and so many of you, thank you for what you said about one of our fallen brothers, my heart brother, Butch Hunt, who, again, I showed you how God's grace worked, where Butch had moved out to California and then Denver, and it just so happened that when he was getting his cancer radiation first treatment, God had me scheduled on my new contract, y'all. I had just gotten on this contract in October of 2020. I gave you the short version on the post, but I had just gotten in this contract in October of 2020, and bam, I think it might have been in December that they said, okay, the training is going to be in January in Denver. And see, and then it just so happened that it was the same week that Butch was scheduled for his surgery. So I went in early, and I was there to be and support him. This is what God does, y'all. He makes sure that we're taking it together, still recuperating and recovering. It's a slow pace. This is what I was saying earlier about your track record. You are not going to heal as fast as you did when you were a child. But guess what? You are no longer a child, but also the doctors did something different, and your diagnosis is not the same. Even if you break the same thing, guess what? You are breaking something that was already broken. So therefore, the healing process is a little longer, because it's not just going from that one break to putting it back. You're now dealing with something that was even shorter. Did you see how I did that? This is how it was when it got broken. So now it's fixed this way. Now when it breaks, it's even. So, this is what I'm saying, y'all. We got to be realistic. Slow down and think about it. Slow down and think about it. And rest in peace, big brother Butch. Yeah, because we all grew up. In grant projects. So amazing. Yeah, I put all of these words up in case y'all don't see them. You see them in the thread, but you know what? So much of what we say needs to be on the billboard. And so there goes Ronnie giving Vic a shout out. And I'm going to let it close with that, okay? But again, y'all, thanks so much for joining me on Glue Wednesday. And look at it. Oh, I'll really let it end with John Irie giving us some French. Merci, AKD. But it says thank you and have a great day. Merci et que Dieu des grands, des gardes. I'm pretty sure that means thank you and have a good day. But y'all know Facebook, you can click on and get the translation. All right, y'all. Over and out. God love you. Stay safe. Ciao.